Hi guys, good morning. So we will start with our discussion, and if you remember, we have done majority of our discussion about section 139 and section 142. So if you remember that either you will file your return because you're required as per section 139 subsection 1, or maybe because under section 142.11 a notice has been served on you and you have been required to file a return. The processing of return will happen under section 143 subsection 1. The processing of return. When the return is processed, then it will check for certain basic mistakes, like if there are any arithmetical errors, if there are any expenses which are disallowable, if there is any income which you have not taken, or if there is any incorrect claim made by the SSC. All these things will be checked for in the return, and based on that, processing will be done for the return. If under any circumstances, because of reduction in expenses being booked by the SSC or because of incorrect claims, if overall tax liability of the SSC goes up, then SSC will be served a show cause notice. A reasonable opportunity of being heard will be given to the SSC, and only after that he will be made to pay that. In case if acknowledgement is given to the SSC that yes, for this previous year the return has been duly filed, okay, that is considered as deemed intimation, and in that case we assume that the return which we have submitted has been accepted as it is. Acknowledgement is considered as deemed intimation, and acknowledgement means that there are no mistakes found in your return and it is accepted as it is. However, if the if the intimation is sent to you for the purposes of any change in your tax liability, then the intimation will be served on the SSC and he will be given time to reply to that. If he does not reply, then he will have to pay the tax liability according to what is mentioned in the intimation. I hope this is clear. We need to be very clear about one thing here. The return which you file, I've told you this earlier also, assessing officer has the power to do assessments under section 143.3. If you remember, we discussed that. That's called as regular or scrutiny assessment. Under section 144, we have best judgment assessment. Under section 147, we have income which escaped assessment. And under section 153A, we have any income escaping assessment found out during the search being conducted. Okay, these are the four types of assessment. Be very clear, 143.1 is not an assessment. It is just an intimation or a deemed intimation about the return filing. Okay, so 143.1 is normal processing of return which is done. Okay, so let us now read on page 230 about it, the scheme of processing of returns. So point number 1, actually most of the things I've already told you. Let's read it from point number 1. Where a return has been made under section 139 or in pursuance of a notice in response to a notice under section 142.1, such return shall be processed in the following manner. Namely, the total income or loss shall be computed after making the following adjustments. That is, any arithmetical error in the return or any incorrect claims, if such incorrect claim is apparent from any information in the return, disallowances of losses claimed. Example, you have set off your losses even after not filing the loss return in the previous year, something like that. Okay, disallowances of any expenditure which indicated in the audit report but not taken into account in computing the total income, disallowances of any deductions which you have claimed. Okay, all these things will be taken into consideration, provided that no such adjustment shall be made unless an intimation is given to the SSC of such adjustment, either in writing or in electronic mode. Okay, so as I told you, before any adjustments are done, an intimation needs to be sent to the SSC about the changes in the tax liability, which will obviously arise as a result of any disallowances of deductions or expenses, or if there are any incorrect claims made by the SSC. For that, if adjustment is done, definitely there will be change in the tax liability, and accordingly SSC needs to be sent an intimation by the assessing officer. Okay. Now, provided further that the response received from the SSC, if any, shall be considered before making any adjustments. And in case when no response is received within how many days? Within 30 days of the issue of such intimation, such adjustment shall be made. So you get basically 30 days time to reply and clarify. It might happen that you accept it. Not replying is also an acceptance, or replying with some contradictions that why it should be allowed, or why any claim which you have made is not incorrect, it is rightfully made. So that all you need to do within 30 days from the date of issue of intimation. Okay. Next, so once they have given you the intimation, then you will also be liable, obviously, whatever outstanding tax liability you have, you will be liable to pay interest and any fee under section 234F. All those interest and fee will be added to your tax liability. Any deductions, if are to be adjusted, or TDS payments, TCS payments are to be done, that will be adjusted, and based on that your net liability will be found out. Okay, so that's given in point number B and C. The tax and interest and fees under section 234F, if any, shall be computed on the basis of total income computed in clause A. The sum payable or the amount of refund due to the SSC shall be determined after adjustment of tax, interest or fee computed under clause B, and reduced by any tax deducted at source or collected at source. Okay, any advance tax is paid, relief. So these things we have studied in self-assessment under section 140A. Okay, so any adjustments required for any credits available for you, that will be given to you. An intimation shall be prepared or generated and sent to the SSC specifying the sum determined to be payable, or the amount of refund due to the SSC, and the amount of refund due to the SSC in pursuance of the determination under clause C shall be granted to the SSC. So it might even result in a grant of refund to the SSC, or there may be increase in tax liability. Okay, now the intimation which has been sent to the SSC, okay, it should be sent within a period of 1 year. Okay, so if you read here, provided that no intimation shall be sent after the expiry of 1 year. This is important. From the end of the financial year in which return is made. So intimation cannot be sent after a period of 1 year. Now remember one thing very clearly here. Intimation might result in increase in taxes, or it might even result in increase of refund. Okay, so if the intimation is about increase of taxes, then the period of 1 year will apply. That is, it can be done before the expiry of 1 year from the end of the financial year in which return is filed. But if at all there is a refund which SSC is eligible for, then the period of 1 year will not apply. That is, a check of refund can be given to the SSC even after a period of 1 year. Okay, I hope this is clear. Next, if you come down and look at point number B on the next page. Point number B. The acknowledgement of the return shall be deemed to be an intimation in case where no sum is payable by or refundable to the SSC under clause C, and where no adjustment has been made under clause A. So acknowledgement of the, like I told you, acknowledgement of the return is also a deemed intimation. And in that case, we will assume that it's a deemed intimation that yes, your return has been duly filed. So which means there are no adjustments as given in point number A. Okay. Next, look at this point number 1. Normally under section 143, notice under section 143.2 can be issued if an intimation under 143.1 has been issued to the SSC. Even in case where acknowledgement is deemed as an intimation under 143.1, notice under section 143.2 can be issued to the SSC. Okay, like I told you, what is 143.2 for? 143.2 is the issue of notice for conducting a regular or scrutiny assessment on the SSC. Again, why would regular or scrutiny assessment be done by the assessing officer? Maybe because the assessing officer is of a belief that there is some income of yours which has not been taken, or there is some expenses which has not been accounted for. To account for the same, they will conduct a regular or scrutiny assessment. So obviously, assessing officer will not pick up every case for regular or scrutiny assessment, but few cases, yes, they might pick up. It generally where they have a doubt or they have some sort of evidence based on data collected under section 142.1.1 or 142.1.2, they feel that it is important to do the assessment for in respect of particular SSC. So even after the processing of return under 143(1) has been done, and even if acknowledgement has been given to you that yes, your return has been filed, they can still start with regular or scrutiny assessment under section 143(3). And for that, a notice got to be issued first, which can be served under section 143(2). I hope this is clear. Okay. 143(1) is not an assessment, but it is an intimation or deemed intimation. I already told this to you. Intimation or deemed intimation is not an assessment order. It is just an intimation. Now, understand one thing. Against this intimation or deemed intimation, if you want to challenge the judgment of the assessing officer, the verdict of the assessing officer, you can go to the CIT appeals, or if you want a revision application, then you can file it under section 264. Okay. But now under section 264, you go to the CIT under section 264. These things have been told to you in the framework. Under section 264, you make a revision application to the Commissioner of Income Tax. Now, what is mentioned under section 264 is that the application under 264 can be made against any assessment order of the assessing officer. Are you getting my point? Two things I have told you. Number one, revision application can be made to the Commissioner of Income Tax under section 264, provided it is in respect of any assessment order of the assessing officer. So please understand one thing, because we are continuously repeating it, 143(1) is just an intimation or deemed intimation. It is not an assessment order. So the route of 264 is closed for the SSE when 143(1) is to be challenged. The only alternative is that you can appeal to the CIT appeals against the intimation or deemed intimation. I hope this makes sense. You can please read point number 3. Please read out point number 3. You will understand what I'm saying. Similarly, if you look at point number 4, you will understand that, like I told you, 264 is a revision application made to the CIT. Now, 264 can only be for the benefit of the SSE. Okay, remember that 264 can only be for the benefit of the SSE, but 263 is also a revision application to the Commissioner of Income Tax, but 263 is only for the benefit of the revenue. Please remember the two things I told you. 263 is also an application to the CIT for revision of the assessment order. 264 is also an application to the CIT for revision of the assessment order. But 264 will always be for the benefit of the SSE, but 263 is for benefit of the revenue. Now, when 264 cannot be used in case of 143(1), that is, as I told you, the 143(1) is not an assessment order. So if the route of 264 is closed, similarly the route of 263 is also closed. For the same argument that 143(1) is not an assessment order, but just an intimation or deemed intimation. Okay, that's given in point number 4 if you read it. As per law under section 263, the CIT can revise the order of the assessing officer. Since 143(1) is not an order, CIT under section 263 cannot revise the intimation or deemed intimation under section 143(1). If you remember, one more point I told you, under 154, if there is any mistake apparent from the record, that language is important. We will study that later on. But if there is any mistake apparent from the record, if the assessing officer feels there is a mistake apparent from the record, then he can, under section 154, make the rectification. Okay, assessing officer can make the rectification. As per the provisions of section 154, the assessing officer with a view to rectify any mistake apparent from the record. What do you mean by mistake apparent from the record? It means any mistake on which two views cannot be taken. You are looking at something, so you know 2 plus 2 is 4. We can't come on debate on that, right? Similarly, in income tax, if something is very, very much given and obvious, it's not debatable, there are no two views possible, that's mistakes apparent from the record. Okay? Amend any order passed by him under the provisions of Income Tax Act, or they can amend any intimation or deemed intimation under section 143(1), which means assessing officer has the power under section 154, whether it's assessment order or it's an intimation, they have the power to rectify their mistakes under section 154. Okay, the amendment under section 154 is done by passing a rectification order under section 154. Therefore, under section 154, the assessing officer has the power to rectify a mistake apparent from the record in case of intimation or deemed intimation. SSC can also seek rectification under section 154 of any mistake from record in the intimation or deemed intimation under 143(1). SSC can also ask the assessing officer to take the route of 154 for any mistakes which are apparent from the record, and accordingly the assessing officer can make rectifications. I hope this makes sense to you. Okay, you can go through question number 1 here. It's a simple question, just go through it. Look at point number 7. Point number 7. The demand in the intimation issued under section 143(1) should be paid within 30 days. Okay. So when the intimation is first sent to the SSC, he has 30 days time from the issue of the intimation to respond to that intimation. If he does not reply, it's assumed that SSC is fine with the intimation or deemed intimation. Any intimation or deemed intimation cannot be sent after 1 year from the end of the financial year in which return is filed. Once the intimation is sent, SSC did not reply to it, then within 30 days from the date of receipt of such intimation, whatever additional tax liability is there, that SSC will have to pay. If the SSC fails to pay the demand within 30 days, then interest and penalties under section 220 and 221, we discussed yesterday, penalty and interest will be applicable on the SSC. Another important point which I already told you, refunds can be made even after 1 year. So a check of refund payable to the SSC can be given even after 1 year. The 1 year criteria of sending the intimation or deemed intimation is relevant only from the point of view of increase in tax liability. Okay, see this. As per section 143(1), the intimation for tax payable or refundable shall not be sent after the expiry of 1 year from the end of the financial year in which return is filed. However, the limitation of 1 year shall not apply to the issue of check of refund. Otherwise, the tax authorities will intentionally start sending all the intimations of refund only after 1 year, making it invalid. Okay, so that's why they have kept it. They have protected the interest of the SSC here. Check of refund can be granted at any point of time. Okay, I hope this is clear. Question number 2. Due date of filing return 39/19. Case 1, return filed on 39/19, return filed on 31/3/20, which means it's a belated return. So, by when can intimation be sent? Let's write intimation under section 143(1) can be sent up to 31/3/2021, 1 year from the end of the financial year in which return is filed. Financial year is 1920, so 31/3/2020. 1 year is 31/3/2021. Next. Due date is 39/19. Return filed on 31/3/20. Case 1. Intimation under section 143(1) is issued on 31/3/2021. That is fine. Case 2. Okay, so first case, let's finish off. Case 1, the SSC received it on 4th of April 2021. Question is, will it be considered valid because SSC received it after a period of 1 year? You need to be very careful with the language in assessment procedures. There are 2 languages used. One is issue, one is served. If the language says it should be served within 1 year, then service means received by SSE. If it's about issuing the assessment order or the intimation, then it is that the assessing officer should have issued it. Then that date has to be seen. When it is received by the SSE becomes irrelevant. Got my point? So you can do one thing. Below here you can write, be careful about the language. Be careful about the language whether issue of notice is given or service of notice is given. Be careful about the language whether issue of notice is given or service of notice is given. By service we mean the date by service we mean the date when SSE received it. By service we mean the date when SSE received it. Okay, so you have to be careful in the language whether they have given issue of notice or they have given service of notice. I hope this is fine. So first case, you can understand clearly the issue has been done on time. Intimation under section 143(1) will be valid since the intimation has been sent within the time period of 1 year allowed under section 143(1). So it is very much fine. Intimation under section 143(1) second case will be time barred because it is sent on 2/4/21, which is greater than 31/3/21, because it should have been sent by 31/3/21. So in this case it is time barred and thus it will be invalid. Okay, so based on this notice or this intimation, assessing officer cannot expect SSE to pay the demand within 30 days. Understand that, because the very intimation itself is invalid. Okay. Question number 4, think about it. There is a refund in this case. Intimation is not sent up till 31/3/2021. What will happen? There is a refund. Intimation not sent. You can write does not matter as check of refund under section 143(1). Does not matter as check of refund under section 143(1) can be issued even after 1 year from end of financial year in which return is filed. Can be issued even after 1 year from end of financial year in which return is filed. Okay. Finance Act 2018 made an amendment wherein the powers were given to the assessing officer that if he feels that for the best interest of the revenue, the assessing officer feels that the refund should be held back and not paid to the SSE, and they wait for some more clarification or they want some more evidence before making the refund, then they have been given the powers of holding back the refund. Obviously, they can't exercise these powers independently. They will have to take the prior approval of the CIT. Okay, they have to take previous approval of the CIT and they have to write it down, the reasons why they feel refund should be withheld. But the powers have been given to the assessing officer. If in the interest of the revenue, assessing officer has some evidence that there is tax evasion done by the SSE, or there is some kind of manipulation or misappropriation done by the SSE, then he has been given the powers that with the prior approval of the Commissioner of Income Tax, he can hold back the refund that the SSE is eligible to get. Okay, so that you have to remember. You can just read it once. This is section 241A. Now, logically, you need to understand one thing. If assessing officer is doubting a particular SSE regarding some misappropriations or regarding some fraudulent practices, you are 100% sure that a return cannot just be processed under 143(1). In that case, definitely regular or scrutiny assessment will start. Clear about it? If the assessing officer is doubting the practices of the SSE, he feels there is some tax evasion done by the SSE, definitely his case will be picked up for regular or scrutiny assessment. So the question here is, till what time the assessing officer can hold back the refund amount? So the answer to that is up to the time the assessment under section 143(3) is completed. Till that time, they can hold back the refund. So obviously 143(3), if it goes in favor of the assessing officer, then the assessment order will be given to the SSE that, see, this refund cannot be made to you because of this being added to your income, or this being disallowed from your expenses. Clear? Now SSE at that point of time will have two choices. Either he will accept it that yes, it was his mistake and he has been caught red-handed, or alternatively he has a choice to directly approach the CIT appeals, or in this case he can even make a revision application to the Commissioner of Income Tax under section 264. Can now he go to the Commissioner of Income Tax? The answer is yes, because we are not talking about intimation or deemed intimation. We are talking about assessment order under section 143(3). I hope this is clear to you, right? So even if they withhold the refund, they will do it for a period till the time the assessment under section 143(3) is completed, not beyond that. Okay. Next question is notice being served on the SSE where assessment is to be done under 143(3), and the notice is served under section 143(2). I have already told this multiple times. Where a return has been furnished under 139 or in response to a notice under 142(1), the assessing officer or the prescribed income tax authority, as the case may be, if considers it necessary or expedient to ensure that SSE has not understated the income or has not computed excessive loss or has not underpaid the tax. These are the three signs: excessive losses, understatement of income, or less taxes paid. Doubt will arise in the mind of assessing officer, and they in that case want to do further scrutiny, and that's why it's called as scrutiny assessment. They want more evidence. They will ask SSE to produce more documents, maybe for previous years. They will ask for statements of profit losses, balance sheets, to find out whether there is any misappropriation done at the end of the SSE for evading taxes. Okay. So these are the reasons why scrutiny or regular assessment will be done. Either to attend the office of the assessing officer, or to produce or cause to be produced before the assessing officer any evidence on which the SSE may rely in support of the return. Okay. Provided that no notice under this subsection shall be served on the SSE after the expiry of 6 months from the end of the financial year in which return is furnished. So 6 months period is given from the end of the financial year in which return is furnished. 6 months period is given within which, if the assessing officer wants, he can start the assessment, not beyond that point. So you will file your return in assessment year. So for you, the previous year is 1920, assessment year is 2021, which means 31/3/21, and they will get 6 months from that time to do the completion of any notice if they want to send. But that has to be completed by 30th of September 2021, if you understand. For you, that is applicable, 30th of September 2021. Okay. You can see question number 5. The first case is for assessment year 1920, return of income was filed on 39/19. This is assessment year 1920. Be very careful. By when can the notice be served on the SSC under section 143(2)? Okay, so you can just write here notice under section 143(2) can be, what is the language? Sir, what is the language? Served. Can you see that change in language? Can be served on the SSC. Up to, what is the date? 30th September 2020. Correct? Up to 30th September 2020. Okay, next question. Suppose in illustration above, the notice under 143 is issued on 39 and is received by the SSC on 310. Oh, what will happen? Date of service is important. Accordingly, in this case, notice is invalid. Accordingly, in this case, notice is invalid. Notice is invalid. Read the next question. For the assessment year 1920, due date of filing return of income is 31/7/19. Return of income is filed on 31/7/19, declaring an income of 60 lakhs. Further, a revised return is filed on 31/3/20, declaring an income of 6 lakhs. So what matters is the year, financial year in which return is filed. So return is filed in the year 1920. So you will again get the same time, that is up to 39/2020. Correct? And last case for assessment year 1920, the return of income was filed on 39/2019. Notice under 143(2) served on 39/20, asking for personal appearance and bank accounts, books of accounts, sorry. Another notice under section 143(2) served on 31/12/2020. Now this is beyond the first one. This is important, okay? Understand one thing. The second notice being served here, asking for purchase ledger and sales ledger. The second notice being served here is a continuation of the first notice. So after first notice, the assessing officer might feel, that he needs more data. Just because the second notice is sent after a span of 6 months does not make the entire procedure of regular or scrutiny assessment invalid. Understand that. The first notice has been served on the SSC within 6 months from the end of the financial year in which return is filed. And if second notice is in continuation of the first notice, it will not be time barred or invalid. Understand that. Okay, second notice is continuation of the first notice and therefore valid. If first notice is served in time, subsequent notices are continuation of first notice and they should not be considered as invalid. I hope this is making sense to you. Okay, just revise it, then we will discuss further.